Hello vinyl community, this is Randy, back today with another video. About a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago, I got a record by Jefferson Airplane called Worst of Jefferson Airplane, which was really their greatest hits album. And that was the last Jefferson Airplane record I needed to complete my catalog of Jefferson Airplane records. So today I'm going to show you the whole Jefferson Airplane catalog, all the records that I have. And so before I get started on that, though, I just wanted to mention I got some pictures framed back here. So I just can't get rid of the glare, but that's a Johnny Winter poster from the Fillmore in 1998. In the middle there is The Who. That's when I saw them on May 17th of 2019 here in Nashville. They didn't really look like that when I saw them. That's an old photo, but it's a great photo, and it was a great concert. So yeah, it was fun to see that one. And then over here on the end is a Tom Petty poster. That was from a Tom Petty show that I saw at the Fillmore in, I think, 1997. I've got the tickets for all three of those framed right below them, so you could see below the posters is the tickets. So change of pace there. Yeah, new background, so glad to get those framed. Yeah, so Jefferson Airplane was a band that started in 1965 in San Francisco. I think the main two founders were Marty Balin, the vocalist, and Paul Kantner, mainly a guitarist, mainly the rhythm guitarist, but also a vocalist. So they also picked up a singer named Signe Tolley Anderson. And then they met Jorma Kaukonen to play lead guitar. Jorma brought Jack Cassidy along with him to play bass, and then they had Skip Spence as the drummer. So that was the original lineup of the Jefferson Airplane. This is the record that we're hearing in the background right now. This is their first record. This came out in February of 1967, so sort of a preview to the whole Summer of Love there in 1967. This is a Sundays reissue. We're hearing it right now. Their next album came out in 1967. And yeah, let's see. Oh, sorry. That first one actually came out in 1966. First album came out in 1966. Surrealistic Pillow came out in 67. It was released in February 1st of 1967. So this was sort of the preview to the whole Summer of Love there in San Francisco. This is, one of the best known psychedelic albums. I think it's their best selling album. There were some lineup changes for this record. Skip Spence left the band and went on to be in Moby Grape. They picked up Spencer Dryden as the drummer. There's Spencer here over on the end. And also, Signe Anderson became pregnant and had a baby, and I guess she wanted to be able to raise her baby without traveling around. So she quit the band, and they picked up Grace Slick as the vocalist. So different lineup on this one. Grace brought with her two songs from her previous band, the Great Society, which were Somebody to Love and White Rabbit. Those became two immense hits for the band. They were the two biggest hits that the band ever had. Both from Surrealistic Pillow, 1967. Another Sundays reissue on that one. I think that one came out in 2005. Sorry, 2002 for that one. The first one was 2005. After Bathing at Baxter's, this is another Sundays reissue. This is also a 2005 reissue. This was originally released December 23rd of 1967. So sort of bookending the Summer of Love with these two albums. After Bathing at Baxter's. This is their most psychedelic album. This was really a departure from the first two, which were, acoustic, sort of like folk rock, especially the first one was sort of like a folk rock. This one becomes much more psychedelic sounding. After Bathing at Baxter's, very cool photo on that one. This is also a Sundays reissue. Comes with the original insert there. Yeah, as I mentioned, there was a band called the Great Society. In 1968, Columbia released this record of some live recordings of that band. Grace Slick was in the band. They were the other members of the band back here. Her husband, her brother-in-law were members. And the name of the record is Conspicuous Only in Its Absence. So this was just Columbia Records, I guess, had these tapes, and they wanted to cash in on Grateful Dead's, and Jefferson Airplane's popularity at that time, so they released this record. So, yeah. Grateful Dead, I guess I should have mentioned on Serialistic Pillow there, the core band was there, but Jay Garcia was the spiritual advisor for that record. Great Society record is on this Columbia label. The next record by the band, released in 1968, is Crown of Creation. This is a 2012 reissue. Also a Sundazed reissue. Shows the nuclear explosion there, front and back with the band. I'm glad that Sundazed, in this case, went with the, I'd rather see the RCA label than those Sundazed labels, so they used that one. The next record that the band released is Volunteers in 1969. This is the last record to feature family member Marty Balin, the vocalist. He wrote the song Volunteers. This is a really strong album. I would say that those first four albums are all really strong. This album is also really good, but they're starting to me it seems like they're weakening the band a little bit because they're becoming very political at this point. So We Can Be Together and Volunteers are very political songs. There's some other great songs on here, though. They did a fantastic version of Wooden Ships on this album. The song that Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young did on Deja Vu. I really like the album on here even better. Peanut Butter and Jelly inside. Sort of a fake newspaper on the back. I think this is the original issue from 1969. This record also is the first appearance of Joey Covington on percussion. He went on to take the place of Spencer Dryden as the drummer, but they're both featured on this record. It also comes with this sort of a fake newspaper insert. It has the lyrics on that side and this other information stuff on the back. The original inner sleeve. RCA label. After that, they released a live album in 1969, Blessed's Pointed Little Head. Fantastic album cover here. That's Jack Cassidy, the bass player, relaxing after the show, it looks like. And it's a group portrait. So this album is a single record recorded live at the Fillmore East and the Fillmore West. Very psychedelic sounding record. Ends up with Bear Melt, like a 11-minute song at the end of side 2. Really excellent. This also features quite a bit of Marty Balin on here. I guess he was almost at the end of his tenure with the band, but yeah, it really features him a lot. 3/5 of a mile in 10 seconds. The other side of this live, It's No Secret, and Plastic Fantastic Lover. So a lot of Marty Balin songs on here. His last appearance with the band. Cool poster that came with that. Inner sleeve on that one. RCA Records. So no new albums in 1970 from the band, but they did release a compilation album, The Worst of Jefferson Airplane. This is the one that I just got a couple of weeks ago. This is a fantastic compilation. I'd highly recommend this to anybody who's new to the band. You really get all their best songs on here, and you know, unless you really are going to collect all the records, I would think this one compilation record right here would be just about enough for you if you want. If you do CDs, I have this box set that came out in the 90s. You can get this for really inexpensive on Discogs Nest. It has 3 CDs on it. This is fantastic. It has a booklet and CDs and everything. I was going to mention to you also, I have this book written by Jeff Tamarkin, God Revolution. Sort of a biography of the band. A few pictures in here. But it's mostly just A lot of words. Very extensive history of the band. Very interesting. A cool band. That Worst of Jefferson Airplane, they use this old style label on that one, and then old style inner sleeve. So that was there was no Jefferson Airplane album in 1970. That Greatest Hits came out in 1970, Worst Of. But Jorma Kaukonen and Jack Cassidy had formed their own band. I think they were opening up for Jefferson Airplane sometimes, or maybe they were just playing separately. I'm not really sure of the facts of that, but they did release their own record. This was recorded live there in Berkeley, the New Orleans house in Berkeley. This is an acoustic show. This is just Jorma playing acoustic with Jack on bass. There's also a guy playing harmonica on a few of the songs. Will Scarlett plays harmonica on a few of the songs, but great album cover on that one. So yeah, this is the first record that members of the band did separately, not as part of the band. Here's what that label looks like for Hot Tuna. Very cool inner sleeve on that one. So while Jack and Jorma were doing that, Paul Kantner was recording this album called Blows Against the Empire. It's credited to Jefferson Starship, but this is not the Jefferson Starship that came along later. This is an all-star cast of San Francisco musicians. Most of Jefferson Airplane plays on this. Most of the Grateful Dead plays on this. Steve Stills and Dave Crosby make appearances. So this is where Paul is really getting into his hippie phase and just expounding some ideas about kind of like on wood chips, I guess, just sort of leaving the decayed society and forming their own society, either on farms or by leaving the planet. Came with this cool booklet. Very much of a concept album. This booklet really goes a long way towards explaining everything in this concept here. Inner sleeve on that one. 1971, Jefferson Airplane got back in the studio and released an album called Bark. So Marty Balin was not here. I think they started weakening some here at this point. About half of this album is really good. Mostly the Jorma songs. The Grace and the Paul Kantner songs, they just start getting into these, I don't know, political things. And they really don't sound too rock and roll, for instance. But there are some good songs on here. When the Earth Moves, by Paul Kantner. Feels So Good, Jorma Kaukonen, fantastic song. Pretty As You Feel, which is written by Joey Covington, Jack Cassidy, and Jorma Kaukonen. Wild Turkey's a fantastic Kaukonen instrumental. And then on the second side, well, there's like these novelty songs, like Never Argue With a German, which is really totally a novelty song by Grace. And then also Funk, which is written by Joey Covington, the drummer. So, yeah, it seems like they're not taking it too seriously here, or just trying to do too much stuff that is not rock and roll related in any way. This record originally came in a brown paper bag, like a brown grocery bag. They had that one at Luna when I was there a couple weeks ago. I probably should have gotten it because you don't see it that often. But this one was really good shape, so I didn't really see any point in buying it just to get a grocery bag. But they give you some hints here on things that you can do with that grocery bag. Lyrics are on this side. Very last album by Jefferson Airplane was called Long John Silver. This was released in 1972. This is another. Seems to me they were taking too much time on their packaging and not enough time on the songwriting. I think they really needed Marty Balin there at the end. He was the one who wrote the love songs, the pop songs that sort of kept them grounded without so much of the, politics and stuff. So this is supposed to look like a cigar, a humidor. So you open it up and the inner sleeve looks like this pack of cigars, but then you pull that out and you see beneath the cigars are, well, it looks like a bunch of dirt, but I think at the time that was probably some high-grade marijuana. And the whole thing folds into a humidor. I've never actually seen it folded up. I've never tried to do this one myself. Maybe someday I'll give it a shot. If I do, I'll show you what it looks like when I get it put together. But I haven't done that yet. So that was the end of their studio albums. They did put out another live album, 30 Seconds Over Winterland. This was recorded at Chicago Auditorium Theater in Chicago, and at Winterland. So this has some of their later songs on it. It's a pretty good live album. It comes from those later albums, but I think the live versions are better than the studio versions were for the most part. So, Have You Seen the Saucers was a single, which was the flip side of the Mexico single. It's a really excellent version of that on here. Feels So Good sounds great. And then Trial by Fire, also really good on here. So 30 Seconds Over Winterland. Very cool. Inner sleeve on that one. Paul Kantner, Grace Slick, and David Freeberg. David Freeberg joined the band for that last live album. I guess maybe he worked on the last studio album. David Freeberg was a member of the Quicksilver Messenger service. He played bass for them. He joined the Airplane and basically took Marty's place as the male singer on the band. So he and Grace and Paul Kantner did this record called Ben Von Tolbooth and the Chrome Nun. So once again, this is very much of a concept album, and it's really not very good. Has a whole, once again, has a whole all-star cast of San Francisco musicians playing on it. It's really not one of my favorites. The big attraction for that record, though, is there a song on it called "Your Mind Has Left Your Body," which became the basis for a jam that the Grateful Dead did. Played a lot. They would stick it in maybe in Dark Star, or I guess it could have been in any song where they were jamming for a while, and they called it the My Left Body Jam. So it came from that. 1974, RCA released Early Flight. These are some B-sides and singles that were not included on records. So Mexico is on here, and Have You Seen the Saucers? High Flying Bird, Running Around This World. This is a really good record. I would recommend this one too. That is, I think this is about the only chance we get to see the Grunt label. The band was given their own label by RCA Records, I think, in about 1970 or 71. 2019, the 50th anniversary of Woodstock. This 3-record set of their performance at Woodstock was released. Gatefold on that one. This is an excellent live album. They had one of the best performances at, well, a lot of performances at Woodstock, I guess, were really good. This is an excellent performance, though. This record sounds really great. This one is on sort of like a blue or turquoise vinyl. And the last record I have to show you is Hot Tuna record, Double Dose from 1978. I've shown this one several times. It's one of my favorite live albums. There's Jack and Yorma. They actually had 4 members of the band at this point. They had drummer Bob Steeler. There's Yorma, and the keyboard player Nick Bott, and there's Jack. Fantastic live album. Relics record released in 1985. This historic Hot Tuna. So this was when they really were first starting. This was when they were members of the band. This was recorded April 30th, 1971. So, well, I guess they'd already had their first album by then. So this is just some more acoustic Hot Tuna. This is Relics record label. Yeah, so that's it. That's my entire Jefferson Airplane collection. And yeah, one of my favorite bands, one of the top bands of the 1960s. So yeah, let me know what you think about that band, these records. And yeah, I hope everybody's having a happy 4th of July. Celebrate safely. And yeah, I guess that's it. So thanks very much for watching. Have a great day.